Hello and welcome to this video presentation. My name is Paul Brett. I am a Senior Software Support Analyst for HCL. Today's topic is using the Amazon S3 adapter with HCL Integration Platform. I hope you find the content both interesting and informative. Let's start at the beginning, as it is a good place to start. I'm here in the AWS Management Console, and the first application I'm going to run is Identity and Access Management. If we go into the groups, you will note that I've created a group called S3 Group. Let's click on the group to bring up the permissions. And I've applied a policy to this group, and the policy I've applied is Amazon S3 Full Access. Let's have a look at the users that I've created. I've created a user called HCL.user. This user is a member of that group and as such also gets the policy Amazon S3 Full Access. In the Security Credentials tab, you'll note that I've got one active access key and the associated security key that goes with it. Each time you create an access key, you get one opportunity to make a note of the security key before it is hidden from you forever. If you lose the security key, you have to make this one inactive and create a new one, and use the new access and security key in your maps from then onwards. Okay, let's go back to the Management Console and choose another application. Let's go into S3 and we will have a look at the buckets that I've created. I have a bucket called hcl.user.bucket.1. Let's click on that and you will note that there are currently 0 objects in that bucket. Okay, that's everything I need to show you in the Management Console. Next step is to move on to the design server itself. Here we have the HCL Integration Platform Design Server, or HIP, we shall call it. I'm going to log in with the standard username password that is created for a new installation. And as you will see, I've got one project called Amazon S3. Let's have a look at the contents of that project. We have a file called input.txt, we have a schema called generic, and we have a couple of maps, test1 put and test2 get. It should be obvious what those two maps are going to do. Let's have a look at the first one, test1 put. We'll click on that. Let's right click on the input card and have a look at the settings. Now this card is designed to connect to the file adapter and read the input.txt file. I've also turned on the REST input flag because later on we shall be deploying this map to the REST API, so turning on that was important. Okay, on the output side, under the settings, the connection is set for the Amazon S3 adapter, and the connection properties are done as fields. The access key and the secret key are both masked. The action properties here contain the bucket, which is great because there's a fetch button here that will fetch all the buckets that are available and you can just pick them from a drop-down list. And there's all the other fields been filled in there. Schema, both the input and the output card are using the same generic schema with a text item, a text blob. Okay, so the map rule is just mapping the input to the output. So the file is read, input.txt, and it's sent to the S3 bucket that is defined in the card. So let's build and run this map here in the design server. The map builds successfully and the map completes successfully. If we go back to our Management Console here and we're in the S3 application still, 0 objects shown here until I press the refresh button, and you will note that now we have payload1.txt containing 71 bytes from the input.txt file. Let's have a quick look at the content of that file. I click this button, I can then click open and the file will get downloaded to my local machine, and I can click on that file and there it is in Notepad. Hello world, this is my first document, upload to S3, and I've put in square brackets HCL user 1. Okay, so that's what the input.txt file had, and now it is a payload in the S3 bucket, hcl.user.bucket.1. Okay, so the next step is to retrieve that information using the get map. So back to our design server. Let's close this map, test1 put. We're done with that for the moment. And have a look at the other map, test2 get. Okay, so this map has an input card, and the map requires an input card because I want to use it in REST later. I'm going to bring up the settings. So this connection uses the echo adapter. So this time not reading from a file, not reading from S3, just reading some garbage. But I've turned on the REST flag there so that I can execute this from REST later on. So input 1 is not used in this map at all. However, out 1 has a rule in it that does a get. So there's an either function, so it'll either get information from the S3 bucket with the connection string there, or it will return no message found. So the output of this card goes to out2, and the properties for out2, I've set it to the file adapter. I have set the file to go to a dummy file, output.txt, but the important thing is for this card I'm turning on the REST output. So when I do deploy this to REST eventually, I will kick it off by firing stuff into in1, which then gets discarded. The message is retrieved in out1, and then the result is returned in out2, which is then sent back via the REST API. Okay, let's have a quick look at the rule for out2. It's pretty obvious what this is going to be. It's just going to be a copy of what was in out1, and as you can see, the line then moves from out1 to out2. Okay, so let's build and run this map and see what we get. Build and run. The only thing we're interested in here is the content of out2, and if we go to view data, we can see that we have retrieved the content of the bucket, the S3 bucket. So once again, this data is not coming from the input card. It's not coming from anything via the REST API. It's purely coming into card out1 because of the get rule, and then being copied into out2 and then returned to us here. Okay, so that's running the maps from the design server. I'm now going to show you running those exact same maps through the REST API. So the first thing to do is to just temporarily delete the object from our S3 bucket. So we're back to a blank position to start with. Permanently delete. So there we go. The object has been deleted. Our bucket now contains no objects again. Back in our integration platform, I am going to go to the home. I'm going to go to the packages area and show you that I have a package called package 1, and it has the test1 put and the test2 get maps as part of it. Back to home, and we go into, let's just show you the servers as well quickly. We have local REST API defined, and if I bring up the properties of that, it's a type of web. The base URL is almost the same as my design server, i.e. .15, but it's on a different port. And this is because I have the Dockers for design server and the Docker for the REST API, both running on the same machine, but the REST API has just been shifted up one port so that it can live side by side. Okay, so let's deploy. Before I deploy, I'm going to show you the Swagger UI, and I'm going to execute the list all deployed packages option here. Let's execute that API, and it tells me that there are currently no deployed packages. And if we go to the Swagger Endpoints page and hit the refresh button, you will see that there are no operations defined, no endpoints have been defined at all. Okay, back to deployment. We click the home button, we go into deploy. We're going to deploy to the server that we defined, and we're going to send the content of package 1, which, if you remember, has 2 maps in it. So let's hit the deploy button here. Information telling you the deploy is successful. That's nice. Let's click close. In the Swagger UI, I'm going to execute the list all deployed packages option again, and you will note now that the count has changed to 1. Back to the Swagger Endpoints page, and I'm going to refresh this page, and you will note there are now 4 endpoints. 2 maps, 1 to be run synchronously, 1 to be run asynchronously. So let's run one of those maps. Just a reminder, the bucket is currently empty. We go into the Swagger UI and let's run test1 put. I'll click the try it out button. Now I'm going to override the information that goes in. I'm going to send in some XML. ROT data. This is my data coming from the REST API. Now my map is a text blob, so it won't care that it's XML. It's not like it's going to be validated or anything, but I just want to show you that different types of data can be pushed into the map. And of course the map can handle XML, JSON, EDI, any other format you can think of really. So let's go for an execute. As you can see, we've got a map completed successfully, but no data has been returned. That's because the data has popped off to Amazon S3, of course. Having a look in the bucket, if we refresh, we will note that we now have again one object, payload1.txt, 68 bytes. That's the XML that I put in there. How do we know it's the XML? Well, let's use the other Swagger, the other REST API map, test2get, and run that and get the contents of that API. Right, so we go into here, we click try it out. Now there's no inputs to this map, there's nothing to specify for outputs, nothing to fill in at all. The only thing I need to do is click the execute button. So that's executed, and here is the file that I can download, the response. But I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to take the curl equivalent, I'm going to open up a command prompt, and I'm going to paste that curl command into my command prompt because it's a instantaneous feedback, and I get the data that's coming through from the REST API straight into my DOS box there. Okay, so there it is, a whirlwind tour of using HCL Integration Platform, HIP, with the S3 adapter from HCL to connect to Amazon Web Services storage service to put and get information from their buckets. I want to thank you for taking the time to view my video presentation today. If you found the content interesting and informative, feel free to hit that like button. It would be great if you could also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.